Dr. Kim Hana wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stared at the scanner display for the 10th time in 5 minutes. The numbers couldn't be right. They just couldn't be. She had been studying deep space anomalies for 12 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. The massive object drifting in the cold void near Kepler 4142 had caught their attention 3 weeks ago. Initial scans suggested it was just another rogue planet, kicked out of its home system millions of years ago. Space was full of such wanderers, but as their research vessel, New Sol, drew closer, the readings became impossible to ignore. "Captain, Lee Jun, you need to see this right now," Hana called across the cramped bridge, her voice cracking with excitement and disbelief. Captain Lee pushed himself away from the navigation console where he had been plotting their next survey route. At 35, he was young for a deep space expedition leader, but his steady nerves and quick thinking had earned him the position. "What is it, Doctor? Another mineral deposit?" Hana shook her head, her black hair floating in the low gravity. As she turned the scanner toward him, "Look at these density readings. Look at the geometric patterns. This thing isn't natural, Captain. It's artificial." Lee's eyes widened as he studied the data. The object measured roughly 12,000 kilometers in diameter, but its internal structure showed clear signs of engineering. Geometric chambers, corridors, and what looked like massive mechanical systems filled its interior. "That's impossible," whispered Communications Officer Yu Jihan from his station nearby. "Nothing that big could be built. The materials alone would require strip mining entire solar systems." But Hana was already pulling up more scans, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "There's more. The surface composition shows layers of accumulated ice, cosmic dust, and debris. This thing has been drifting through space for thousands, maybe millions of years, but underneath all that buildup, the enhanced scans revealed the truth that would change human understanding of the galaxy forever. Beneath millennia of accumulated matter lay a structure of impossible scale and obvious military purpose. Weapon ports the size of cities dotted, its surface like craters on a moon. Armor plating thicker than Earth's mountain ranges covered its hull. Propulsion systems larger than human space stations sat dormant in its depths. "Holy stars," breathed Captain Lee. "It's a warship. Engineer." Park Min-ho floated over from the engine monitoring station, his tool belt jingling softly. "Captain, we need to get inside that thing. If even half of what we're seeing is functional technology, it could advance human engineering by centuries." 3 days later, their shuttle, Busan, approached the massive construct's surface. The team had spent hours using mining lasers to cut through the accumulated ice and debris, revealing sections of the underlying hull. The metal was unlike anything in human databases, a dark alloy that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Atmosphere detected in some sections," reported pilot Kim Sora, as she maneuvered the shuttle toward what appeared to be a docking bay large enough to accommodate battleships. Whatever built this thing, they breathed oxygen. The docking bay, doors, each the size of city blocks, had remained open for eons. As their shuttle passed through, automated systems flickered to life for the first time in millennia. Dim lighting strips began to glow along the walls, and atmosphere processors hummed with ancient power. Park Min-ho was the first to step onto the alien deck, his magnetic boots clanking against the metal floor. The corridor stretched ahead of them like a massive highway, its ceiling lost in darkness above. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as the team began their exploration. "The scale is incredible," Min-ho whispered, running his gloved hands along conduits thick as tree trunks. "These power systems could energize entire colonies, and the propulsion technology—" He paused at a junction where they could see into one of the engine chambers. "Captain, the propulsion systems alone could move continents, maybe entire planets." Dr. Choi Sumin, the team's xenoarchaeologist, had been unusually quiet during the initial exploration. She knelt beside what appeared to be a control console, her portable scanner working to decode the alien symbols covering its surface. "Dr. Choi," Captain Lee approached her. "Finding anything useful?" Sumin looked up, her face pale in the artificial light. "Captain, I've accessed what appears to be this ship's memory banks. The translation matrix is still working on the language. But I'm getting coordinates, lots of coordinates. Coordinates to what? Other ships like this one. Sumin's voice barely rose above a whisper. There are dozens of them scattered throughout the galaxy. Maybe hundreds. This isn't just one ship, Captain. This is part of a fleet. As if responding to their discovery, the ancient systems around them began to hum with increasing power. Lights brightened along the corridors, and somewhere in the distance they could hear the sound of massive machinery beginning to wake up after eons of silence. Captain Lee Jun felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, but it came with questions that might be even more terrifying. Who had built these incredible weapons? Where had they gone? And most importantly, what had they been preparing to fight? Standing in the belly of a warship the size of a planet, surrounded by technology that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy, Lee knew that everything was about to change. Humanity had stumbled upon something that would either elevate them to unimaginable heights or destroy them completely. The discovery was just the beginning. 6 months had passed since the first discovery, and the galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Kim Hana stood in the command center of Research Station Alpha, watching holographic displays showing the locations of 17 massive warships scattered across known space. Each one was a planet-sized monument to a civilization that had vanished long before humans had even discovered fire. Another team just confirmed Ship 14 near the Vega system, reported Lieutenant Park Jinwoo, his fingers dancing across the communication console. Same design, same technology, but this one's been buried inside an asteroid field. Hana nodded, but her attention was focused on the data streaming in from Ship 3, the vessel they had designated as their primary research target. For weeks, her teams had been carefully exploring its massive corridors and chambers, documenting technology that seemed almost magical in its complexity. "Doctor, we've got a problem," called Engineer Song Minjun from across the room. His face had gone pale as he studied his instruments. "The power readings from Ship 3 just spiked. Something's happening inside." 300 light-years away aboard Ship 3, Dr. Cha Young-ho and his exploration team were experiencing something unprecedented. The ancient corridors, which had been dimly lit for months, suddenly blazed with brilliant light. The air itself seemed to hum with energy, as systems that had been dormant for millennia began to wake up. "Everyone stay calm," Young-ho called to his team as they huddled together in what appeared to be a control room the size of a football stadium. "Our instruments aren't detecting any immediate danger." But then the voices began. At first it was just whispers in the walls, sounds that could have been mistaken for settling metal or atmospheric recycling. But gradually the whispers became clearer, more purposeful. They spoke in languages that human ears had never heard, yet somehow, impossibly, the meaning became clear in their minds. "Hers awakens us." The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, resonating through the ship's structure itself. "Long have we waited." In the silence, Dr. Young-ho activated his emergency communicator with trembling hands. "Research Station Alpha, this is Team 7. We have contact. Repeat, we have contact with non-human intelligence." The response was immediate chaos. Communication channels exploded with activity as every human team scattered across the 17 ships reported similar phenomena. The ancient vessels were awakening, and their artificial minds were reaching out after eons of solitude. Dr. Kim Hana found herself aboard Ship 1 within hours, leading a hastily assembled team of linguists, scientists, and military personnel. The journey through the ship's massive corridors felt different now. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with energy that made the hair on her arms stand up. In the ship's central chamber, a space so vast it had its own weather patterns, they made contact with the intelligence that had been waiting for them. "We are the guardians of the Titan fleet," the voice spoke directly into their minds, bypassing their ears entirely. "Created by those you would call the architects, we have watched and waited for the children to return." The revelation hit the scientific community like a thunderclap. Through painstaking communication with the awakened AIs, humanity learned the truth about their origins. The architects had been a spacefaring civilization that had seeded life throughout the galaxy millions of years ago. They had created the Titan fleet as weapons of last resort against an enemy so terrible that even the ancient AIs spoke of them in whispers. Dr. Osunwu, the expedition's chief biologist, made the discovery that changed everything. Working with genetic samples from the ship's archives, she found the impossible connection that no one had expected. "The DNA markers are undeniable," she announced to the emergency council session, her voice shaking with the magnitude of the discovery. "Human genetic sequences contain clear traces of architect DNA. We're not just discovering their technology, we're discovering our ancestors." The news spread through human space like wildfire, but it didn't stay contained for long. Within days, every major alien government in the galaxy had learned about humanity's discovery. The reaction was swift and terrifying. Ambassador Yun-taek found himself in the most difficult position of his diplomatic career. The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with angry voices as representatives from dozens of species demanded answers. "The humans have awakened weapons of unimaginable power," hissed the Zephyrian delegate, his reptilian features twisted with fear and rage. "They cannot be allowed to control such technology." The Crystalline Collective's ambassador, a being of living mineral that spoke through harmonic vibrations, added their voice to the growing chorus of concern. "These ships represent a threat to galactic stability. They must be placed under joint control immediately." Yun-taek stood before the assembly, knowing that his next words could determine the fate of humanity. "The ships awakened for us because we are the architect's descendants. We didn't seek this technology. It found us." But his words fell on deaf ears. Within hours of the council session, emergency fleets from multiple alien governments began mobilizing. The hegemony dispatched their battle cruisers. The Void Syndicate activated their stealth armadas. Even the usually peaceful Botanical Collective began moving their bioships toward human space. "They see us as a threat now," Yun-taek reported to Earth Command during an encrypted transmission. "Every major power is mobilizing against us. They're not going to let us keep the ships." Meanwhile, aboard the flagship of the Titan fleet, Captain Nam Ji-hoon was experiencing something that defied explanation. The ancient AI had begun speaking directly to him, its voice echoing not just in his mind, but somehow in his very soul. "Child of the architects," the AI's voice carried a weight of eons, "you feel the connection because the blood of our creators flows in your veins. But know this, the enemy stirs in the darkness between stars. The Devourers have sensed our awakening." Ji-hoon felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. "What are the Devourers?" "They are the reason we were built, the reason your ancestors scattered their children across the galaxy before making their final stand. They consume worlds, civilizations, entire species, and now after millions of years of slumber, they know we have returned." As alien fleets converged on human space and ancient enemies stirred in the cosmic void, humanity found itself at the center of a storm that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The sleeping giants had awakened, but with them came the knowledge that the real war was just beginning. Deep within the archives of Ship 1, Dr. Song Yura worked through her third sleepless night in a row. The ancient architect records were vast beyond imagination, stored in crystalline matrices that held millions of years of history. Each symbol she decoded revealed another piece of a story so incredible that she sometimes wondered if she was dreaming. "Computer, enhanced section 47, she whispered, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. The holographic display shifted, showing what appeared to be star charts from an age when the galaxy looked completely different. The translation software, enhanced by the Titan fleet AIs, began converting the ancient symbols into readable text. What Yura read made her blood run cold. "Emergency log, Architect High Command. The Devourers have consumed the Andromeda Spiral. 17 billion worlds gone. They're heading for our galaxy next. Project Genesis must be accelerated." Yura's hands shook as she scrolled through more records. Images appeared showing the architects in their final days, not the godlike beings she had imagined, but desperate people fighting for survival. They looked remarkably similar to humans, though taller and with eyes that held the weight of cosmic knowledge. "They knew they were going to lose," she muttered, reading entry after entry. The Devourers were too powerful, too numerous. so they did the only thing they could. The records revealed the truth that would shake humanity to its core. The architects had launched massive seed ships throughout the galaxy, carrying their genetic material to thousands of worlds. Each ship contained the DNA templates needed to evolve new species, but with specific genetic markers that would ensure their descendants could one day inherit the architect's technology. Earth wasn't just a random planet, Yura realized as she decoded the final entries. It was one of their primary refuge points. We were meant to grow up to become strong enough to use their weapons when the time came. Meanwhile, in the outer rim of the galaxy, something ancient and terrible was stirring. Long-range sensors aboard the Titan fleet detected movement in the void between galaxies, massive shapes that defied easy description. The Devourers were coming home. Captain Lee Dongwook commanded the Deep Space Monitoring Station, Sejong, positioned at the edge of human space. His instruments had been tracking unusual readings for weeks, but what he saw now made his blood freeze. "Contact Earth Command immediately," he ordered his communications officer. "Priority Alpha. We have incoming bogies, size classification." Impossible. The shapes emerging from the galactic void were larger than anything in the known universe. Biomechanical entities that stretched across light years, their surfaces covered in structures that looked like massive mouths, filled with teeth the size of moons. They moved with purpose, heading directly toward the galaxy's core. "Sir, the computer estimates their arrival at the outer colonies in approximately 8 months, reported Navigation Officer Kim Siola, her voice barely steady. "At current speed, they'll reach Earth in 3 years. Colonel An Minsu received the alert while aboard Ship 3, working with the Titan fleet AIs to understand the ancient weapons systems. The artificial intelligence he had been communicating with, calling itself Sentinel Prime, delivered the news with the calm certainty of a being that had been expecting this moment for millions of years. "The Devourers return as we knew they would," Sentinel Prime's voice echoed through the massive command chamber. "They follow the signature of our awakening, drawn by the power they failed to destroy eons ago." Minsu studied the tactical displays, showing the approaching entities. "How do we fight something that size? Our largest battleships are like insects compared to these things." "Your ancestors asked the same question," Sentinel Prime replied. "The answer lies not in the size of your weapons, but in the strength of your will. The Titan fleet was built to channel the collective power of an entire species, but to activate our full potential, your people must be willing to sacrifice their individual selves for the greater good." The weight of that statement settled on Minsu like a physical force. "What kind of sacrifice?" "To fully interface with the Titan fleet, human consciousness must merge with our systems. Your people would gain the power to fight the Devourers, but they would no longer be entirely human." Back on Earth, President Kang Hyejin faced the most difficult decision in human history. The approaching alien fleets were bad enough, but the threat of the Devourers made everything else seem trivial. She stood before the global assembly, representatives from every human world hanging on her words. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice carrying across the assembly hall and to every human colony in space. "We face a choice our ancestors made millions of years ago. We can remain as we are and face extinction, or we can become what we were always meant to be." The chamber erupted in voices as representatives demanded answers, but Hyejin continued. "The architects didn't just give us their technology, they gave us their responsibility. We are the guardians of this galaxy, whether we want to be or not, in Day." The depths of space, the Titan fleet began to change. Ancient systems that had remained dormant for eons started cycling through activation sequences. Weapon ports the size of continents slowly opened, revealing energies that could crack planets. The ships themselves began to move, their massive, form-shifting position in a complex formation that spanned multiple star systems. Dr. Song Yura watched from the observation deck of Ship 1 as the transformation began. The ancient vessel was beautiful in its terrible power, its hull glowing with energies that hurt to look at directly. But she knew this was only the beginning. "The AIs are preparing for full activation," she reported to Earth Command. "But they're waiting for something. They need human volunteers to complete the process. The volunteers would have to surrender their humanity to become something greater. something capable of wielding weapons that could destroy solar systems. It was a price the architects had paid millions of years ago, and now their descendants faced the same choice. As alien fleets surrounded human space and cosmic horrors approached from the void, humanity stood at the crossroads of evolution. They could remain human and face extinction, or become something new and terrible and beautiful all at once. The galaxy held its breath as humanity prepared to claim their inheritance. The first attack came without warning. Admiral Park Seon-ho was reviewing tactical reports aboard the battleship Incheon when alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. His tactical officer, Commander Yu Jinwoo, turned from his console with wide eyes. "Admiral, we have multiple fleet signatures dropping. Out of hyperspace, hegemony battle cruisers, Zephyrian assault squadrons, and, sir, the entire crystalline collective armada just appeared on our sensors." Seon-ho felt his stomach drop as the tactical display lit up with hostile contacts. Hundreds of alien warships had simultaneously emerged from hyperspace around New Sol Colony, humanity's most important outer world. All ships' battle stations signaled the evacuation fleets to begin emergency procedures. The space around New Sol became a nightmare of laser fire and exploding ships. The hegemony's massive dreadnoughts, each one 3 times the size of humanity's largest battleships, poured devastating energy beams into the human defensive fleet. Their shields, designed to withstand asteroid impacts, crumpled like paper under the alien weapons. "We're taking heavy casualties," reported Weapons Officer Kim Dae-han as another human destroyer exploded in the distance. "Their technology is too advanced. We can't match their firepower." But Seon-ho refused to retreat. Every minute his fleet held the line meant more civilian transports could escape the planet's surface. "All ships, target their escort vessels. Let the big ones through if you have to, but protect those evacuation ships." The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, New Sol Colony was in alien hands, and half of Seon-ho's fleet was debris floating in space. Similar scenes played out across human territory as the 5 major alien powers carved up human colonies like pieces of a puzzle. "We're losing colonies faster than we can evacuate them," Seon-ho reported grimly to General Han Minji during an emergency holographic briefing. His uniform was torn, and smoke still drifted behind him from damaged systems aboard his flagship. "At this rate, we'll lose everything within 3 months." General Han studied the tactical maps, showing human territory shrinking by the day. Red zones marked lost colonies, while yellow zones showed worlds under attack. The green zones, representing secure human space, were disappearing fast. "How long until the Titan ships are ready?" she asked. "Dr. Lim Do-hyun says they need at least 2 more weeks to complete the neural interface systems. But, Admiral, I don't think we have 2 weeks. Deep inside Ship 1, Dr. Lim Do-hyun worked frantically with his neural interface team. The ancient architect technology was incredibly complex, requiring human volunteers to essentially merge their consciousness with the ship's AI systems. The process was dangerous and irreversible. "We need more volunteers," he told his assistant, Dr. Choi Soo-young. "The ship's AI says it needs at least 50 human minds to achieve full combat effectiveness." The volunteers came from every branch of human service. Fighter pilots, engineers, scientists, even civilians who understood that humanity's survival depended on their sacrifice. One by one, they entered the neural interface chambers, knowing they would emerge as something more than human, but also something less. The first to undergo the procedure was Captain Yang Seung-min, a veteran starfighter pilot who had lost his entire squadron defending the Proxima colonies. As the neural links activated, his consciousness expanded beyond his individual self, merging with the vast intelligence of the Titan ship. "I can feel everything," he whispered, his voice carrying harmonics that no human throat should produce. The ship, the weapons, the power flowing through systems the size of continents. It's incredible. Within hours, Ship 1 achieved something humanity had never seen before: full combat activation. The ancient vessel, dormant for millions of years, came alive with power that made stars look dim. Weapon ports opened along its surface, revealing energy cannons that could crack moons. The first test came when a hegemony fleet approached the outer marker buoys, confident in their technological superiority. Admiral Park Seon-ho watched from a safe distance as Ship 1 engaged the enemy. The battle lasted exactly 17 seconds. A single energy beam from the Titan ship's main cannon vaporized the lead hegemony dreadnought instantly. Secondary weapons, fired in perfect coordination, each shot destroying multiple enemy vessels. When the light faded, the entire alien fleet was gone, reduced to expanding clouds of superheated gas. "My God," whispered Commander Yu Jinwoo, "we actually have a chance." But humanity's moment of victory was cut short by an emergency transmission. From the deep space monitoring stations, Captain Bai Sujin's voice crackled through the communication system, filled with terror that transcended species barriers. "All fleets, all governments, emergency broadcast. The Devourers have entered our galaxy. Repeat, the Devourers are here." The tactical displays throughout human and alien space suddenly showed new contacts, but these weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were entities so massive that they registered as gravitational anomalies, biomechanical nightmares that stretched across light years, their surfaces covered in structures that looked like continent-sized mouths, lined with teeth the size of moons. "Estimated time to core world 6 months, reported engineer John Woojin from his monitoring station. "They're consuming everything in their path. Entire star systems are just disappearing." The change in galactic politics was immediate and dramatic. Admiral Corvin of the Hegemony Fleet, who had been preparing to bombard Earth itself, suddenly found himself broadcasting on open channels to his former enemies. "Human command, this is Hegemony Admiral Corvin. We request immediate ceasefire and alliance negotiations. The Devourers represent an existential threat to all life in the galaxy." Similar transmissions poured in from every alien government. The Zephyrian Confederation offered their stealth technology. The Crystalline Collective provided their defensive systems. Even the mysterious Void Syndicate emerged from hiding to offer their support. General Han Minji found herself in the surreal position of coordinating with the same alien leaders who had been trying to destroy humanity just days before. "We'll need every ship, every weapon, every tactical advantage we can get," she told the hastily assembled Alliance Council. But engineer John Woojin's calculations painted a grim picture. "Even with the combined fleets of every galactic civilization, we're outmatched. The Devourers are too large, too numerous. Our conventional weapons can't even scratch their hull plating." Dr. Lim Do-hyun knew what that meant. "We need to activate all 17 Titan ships, full neural interface for each one. But that means we'll need hundreds of volunteers willing to sacrifice their humanity." The weight of the galaxy's survival now rested on humanity's willingness to pay the ultimate price. They had become the guardians their ancestors intended, but the cost of that guardianship was becoming clear. To save the galaxy, humanity would have to stop being human. As the Devourers advanced through space, consuming stars and planets alike, the fate of trillions of lives hung in the balance. The ancient war was about to begin again, and this time, there would be no second chances. The neural interface chamber hummed with energy that made the air itself seem alive. Dr. Kim Hana stood before the massive crystalline structure, knowing that stepping inside would change her forever. Around her, the command center of Ship 1 buzzed with activity, as technicians made final preparations for the most dangerous experiment in human history. "Are you sure about this, Doctor?" asked Dr. Lim Do-hyun, his hand hovering over the activation. "Controls. Once the process begins, there's no going back. We don't know if you'll still be you when it's over." Hana looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching Devourers. Entire star systems were disappearing as the cosmic predators consumed everything in their path. "If we don't try, there won't be anyone left to worry about it." She stepped into the chamber as crystalline walls began to glow around her. The neural interface activated with a sound like singing crystal, and suddenly, Hana's mind exploded outward. Her consciousness, which had always been contained within her skull, suddenly expanded to encompass the entire ship. She could feel every system, every corridor, every weapon that stretched across the planet-sized vessel. The ship's ancient AI welcomed her, its vast intelligence intertwining with her human thoughts. "I am still me," she transmitted to the command center, though her voice now carried harmonics that resonated through the ship's hull itself. "But I am also something more. I can feel the ship's power, its weapons, its purpose. It's incredible." The transformation was visible to everyone watching. Hana's physical body remained in the chamber, but her consciousness now operated on a scale that dwarfed any single human mind. She had become the ship, and the ship had become her. Within hours, volunteers began arriving from across human space. Captain Lee Jun, the expedition leader who had first discovered the ships, underwent the fusion aboard Ship 2. Dr. Choi Soo-min merged with Ship 3's systems. Colonel An Min-soo bonded with Ship 4's ancient intelligence. Each transformation brought another Titan ship to full combat readiness, their massive forms beginning to move through space with purpose and coordination that had been impossible before. The ships communicated with each other through quantum entanglement, their human-AI hybrid consciousnesses sharing information instantaneously across vast distances. The final battle began when the first devourer reached the outer rim of the galaxy. The creature was so massive that it had its own gravitational field, bending space around it as it moved. Its surface writhed with biomechanical structures that looked like city-sized organs, pulsing with dark energy. Ship 1, under Hana's control, was the first to engage. The ancient vessel's main weapon, a quantum cannon that drew power from controlled black holes, fired its first shot in millions of years. The beam of concentrated energy struck the devourer's flank, tearing away chunks of its biomechanical hull the size of continents. The creature responded immediately, extending massive tentacles tipped with energy projectors. Each tentacle was larger than most space stations, moving with impossible speed for something so huge. They lashed out at Ship 1, striking its shields with force that could shatter planets. "It's adapting to our weapons," Hana transmitted to the other ships. "These things learn from every attack." The battle expanded as more devourers entered the galaxy, each one unique in its horrifying design. Some looked like massive jellyfish made of living metal, their translucent bodies filled with swirling energy that consumed light itself. Others resembled enormous spiders, with legs that stretched between star systems, their bodies covered in eyes the size of moons. Captain Lee Jun's ship engaged a devourer that looked like a twisted combination of whale and machine, its mouth large enough to swallow gas giants whole. "The creature's trying to drain our power systems," he reported as the entity's biomechanical appendages attached themselves to his ship's hull. "It's feeding on our energy." The fusion-enhanced humans learned to fight as one mind distributed across 17 bodies. They coordinated attacks with precision impossible for individual beings, their planet ships moving in formations that spanned light years. When one ship was damaged, the others instantly adapted to cover its weaknesses. Dr. Choi Soo-min discovered the key to victory during her battle with a devourer that resembled a massive brain surrounded by protective shell-like structures. "They're not just predators," she transmitted. "They're networked. Kill the central processing nodes and the others become disoriented." The tide of battle turned as the Titan ships began targeting the neurological centers that coordinated the devourers' movements. Ancient weapons designed specifically for this purpose carved through biomechanical defenses that had evolved over millions of years. The final devourer fell near the galactic core, its massive form dissolving into component particles that scattered harmlessly into space. As the threat ended, a strange silence fell across the galaxy. For the first time in eons, the cosmic predators were gone. But victory came with a price that became clear as the transformed humans surveyed their new reality. Dr. Kim Hana tried to return to her original body, only to discover that her consciousness could no longer fit within such limited confines. She had become something greater than human, but in doing so had lost what made her human in the first place. "We can never go back," she realized, her voice now a harmony of human emotion and artificial intelligence. "We are guardians now, as our ancestors were. But we are no longer the people we once were." The alien civilizations that had once threatened humanity now approached the Titan fleet with reverence tinged by fear. The hegemony sent diplomatic vessels filled with tribute. The Zephyrian Confederation offered eternal alliance, The Crystalline Collective sang harmonies of respect across subspace frequencies. Ambassador Yun Take, one of the few humans who had remained unchanged, found himself speaking for a species that no longer existed in its original form. Standing aboard a diplomatic vessel between the transformed Titan ships and the assembled alien fleets, he delivered humanity's final message. "We are the Guardians now, as our ancestors intended," he said, his words broadcast across the galaxy. "The galaxy is safe, but the price of that safety is what we once were. We were human. Now we are something else, something necessary." The Titan fleet dispersed throughout the galaxy, their planet-sized forms taking positions at strategic points where they could watch for threats emerging from the darkness between stars. They communicated with each other across impossible distances, their hybrid consciousnesses maintaining eternal vigilance. In the depths of space, Dr. Kim Hanna's ship drifted past a nebula where new stars were being born. She watched the cosmic dance of creation, with senses that could perceive across multiple dimensions simultaneously. She remembered being human, remembered the limitations and the joy of individual consciousness, but she could never return to that simpler existence. "We are the price of peace," she transmitted to her fellow Guardians scattered across the galaxy. "And perhaps that is enough." The galaxy continued its ancient rotation, its billions of worlds safe under the protection of beings who had once been human, but had chosen to become something more. In the darkness between galaxies, nothing stirred. The Devourers were gone, and the Guardians watched eternal. The end.